Well, how many of you remember going to your grandmother's house or your uncle or an aunt somewhere to visit, or maybe even your home, and you remember the morning when you got up, when you could smell the bacon cooking or the sausage. Maybe your grandmother made you a bunch of eggs. Maybe they were hunters and they were cooking up tenderloin or fried rabbit or something such as that. And you have those familiar smells packed away in your memory. And those were the days when it took some time to get up and get things going. I can remember hearing my dad talk about that in their family there was nine of them, and that somebody had to get up and get the fire started in the stove. Had to stoke the fireplace, usually keep it going, and so I got his memories. I do have some memories of going to my grandmother's house and her cooking breakfast, taking the time out to cook a good hearty breakfast that would carry you through the day. And even my mom and my dad took the time to get up and cook a breakfast. It wasn't until I got grown and married and got busy and working and everything that time kind of slipped away from us. And we started doing more instant breakfasts, more things that were quicker, things that seemed to complement our value of time to be able to get things done. And we opted like a lot of people, and we started doing milk and cereal in the mornings. Some people do milk and orange juice. Some people cut a piece of fruit up and put it in their cereal. And I realized the value of the quickness of that. But as time went on and I grew larger and larger and expanded, and it didn't matter what it seemed like that I tried to diet, even cutting back on calories, it never seemed like I was able to drop weight sufficiently. And so I began to uh, try different things over the years. 2020, some of you know my story. I went in the hospital with heart failure. And of course, I got the regime of less salt, eat better, eat fruits, vegetables, that kind of thing. No one ever really said anything about, hey, how much sugar are you intaking? And so I did real well out of the hospital for a little while, and slowly but surely I started putting this weight back on. And so year before last, Christmas Eve, I wasn't feeling real well. I shared it in another video, and I began to pray about losing weight, and of course had other people praying for me, praying for wisdom, and the Lord kind of led me down the road of things that I already knew in the back of my mind, but I'd never really taken the time to examine it the way that I should. And so I began to eliminate some things out of my diet. And one of the biggies, or three of the biggies, were actually the soft drinks, the sodas, the candy that I would munch on, and the ice cream that I would have almost every night before we went to bed if we had it in the fridge. And I began to see the weight really drop off, and dropped off quickly. I lost like 20 pounds just like that. A lot of it water weight. And so that led me to a journey to begin to study about the effects of sugar on our bodies. And I got a hold of a couple of good books by a doctor. His name is Gary Taubes. He is on Amazon. He does a couple of books about good calories, bad calories, He does the war against sugar. There's a lot of good, wholesome information that began to help me, and I began to eliminate other things out of my diet. I cut bread out. I took bread out and took pastas out. I took peanut butter out. I love peanut butter. I would have peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. I cut milk out eventually because, as some of you saw my pictures on Facebook the other day, when I went through the Publix and I was buying cereal for $5 and $6 a box, I decided I'd stop by the milk case and take some pictures of the ingredients of the milks. And so I did fat free, I did 1%, 2%, I did whole milk, and I did chocolate milk. And I can tell you the only sugar values that changed was when I got to the chocolate milk, and then it almost went all the way double again in the amount of carbohydrates by gram weight that was in this chocolate milk as far as the milk was concerned. So that kind of brings us here. A lot of times for lunch, I'd come in from the shop, and instead of making a sandwich and peanut butter, I went through it. I went through a lot of it. So sometimes there wasn't peanut butter in the cabinet. And so I would grab a box of cereal. And usually my go-to cereal most of my life has been this of Frosted Flakes. And we'll talk about that in just a minute because I liked it. They're great. That's what Tony said. But years ago, the cereal industry, some of the bigger names and producers of cereal, along with the sugar industry, probably the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, a lot of these got together and they changed the diet plan of the American public. Overseas, in Europe, some of these cereals is not even allowed because of the ingredients that's in it. It's weird. It's like here in America, we allow ingredients to be put into our food that is poisoning and harming our physical being. It holds sickness and disease. It causes problems. It causes inflammation. Inflammation is a big deal in the human body. It comes through all kinds of forms of aches and pains and swelling and redness and anxiety and sleeplessness and a lack of focus and brain fog and all of these things is where this stems from. And we have a terrible habit of trying to hide the symptoms, block out the symptoms with medication. But the only way we really ever fix anything is to get to the core root of the problem. Some of you know that I'm a mechanic by trade, among some other things. And I can fix your automobile. I can fix a problem with your automobile, but sometimes the problem that's going on is only a result of something else that's happening before that's causing it. And so if I don't dig and root out and ask the customer some questions about maybe their driving habit, maybe what they're putting in the car, maybe the roads they drive on, maybe whether it's left outside, whether rats have got in it and decided to chew on the wiring harness. There's just a lot of things that play into that become a root reason for why these symptoms show up. And so we live in a day when breakfast has been changed for a lot of the American public. Now, I did a little display here a few weeks ago about carbohydrates, how to count your carbohydrates by the gram, which translates to how much sugar is actually in something. And the rule of thumb is that for every 4 grams of carbohydrate, we make that equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar. I'll give you an example. 12-ounce canned Coke. You're going to be looking at roughly between 7 or 8, more like 8 or 9 teaspoons of sugar in a canned Coke. Whenever you drink that, you put that with a candy bar, and you flooded your system with sugar. And listen, so many things, sickness and disease thrives on sugar. It spikes your glucose, spikes your insulin level. Your pancreas is working as hard as it can. A sugar atom is divided into 2 molecules. 2 is glucose and 2 is fructose. And the fructose side of that goes straight to your liver, because your liver is the only thing that can actually handle that part of that sugar atom. And that's why a lot of people that eat a lot of sugary and starchy foods, a lot of times they can wind up with something like a alcoholic's liver, and they've never drank any in their life. It has basically that same effect. And so we look at some of the things here. Let's just talk a little bit about this. We've got a General Mills product. We've got a Kellogg's product. We've got a Post product here. And so let's take a look at the values of this. Now, I measured out the serving size for each of these in its bulk. In other words, it's going to be a bulk. This is Captain Crunch. It's produced by General Mills. And this is a serving. 1 cup in its volume of Captain Crunch, General Mills. Now, let's be honest. A friend of mine made a comment the other day that he said he filled a bowl. He put a picture of Jethro. And he's like, I filled the bowl and a half gallon of milk. Well, if you do that, nobody, and I don't know anybody that just sits down and eats 1 serving of cereal. I haven't. So that's 1 cup. That's 1 serving of Captain Crunch from General Mills. This by volume, and this is without the milk. This is no milk in this. I put it in a blender and I chopped it up just so I could kind of mimic what it's like as we chew it up. Now, obviously, we don't chew it up this small. And maybe that has an effect of the crunch, of the more feeling better about it. But folks, I can tell you, when you pay $5, $6, $7 for a box of puffy air that's covered in sugar, and it says there is 9 servings per container. So you take this big old box right here, and you figure that there is only 9 of those little pile of cereal there, that little pile of sugar. Are you getting your money's worth? I mean, you've swapped off a pound of good ground beef for 9 of those little stacks right there in front of the window where you can see a little bit better. So let's read the values. 1 cup serving of Captain Crunch is 33 grams of sugar, which equals about 8 teaspoons. Now imagine that there is 8 teaspoons of sugar in that little bitty volume of Captain Crunch. Now let's say you put 2 cups in your bowl. What have you got? You have got 2 of these. And let's say you only do a cup of milk. You don't put in 2 cups of milk. You only put in 1 cup. So now you've got 16, if you've done two servings in a bowl, and believe me, there's people do more than 2 servings. You've got 16 teaspoons of sugar and a cup of milk. That's 19 teaspoons of sugar right there for breakfast. Now, would you do that? Would you give your kid 19 teaspoons of sugar out on the table and just say, eat that and go to school? No, you wouldn't. You know, it is kind of an amazing thing that we feed ourselves and we feed our children all of this sugar, which spikes the glucose, spikes the insulin level, because the insulin's trying to regulate it, trying to keep it out of your bloodstream, and or at least regulate it. And then we load our kids up with this stuff, and we send them off to school, and then they can't focus, or they're hyperactive or whatever, and they go to a medical doctor, and they diagnose them with, ADD, ADHD, whatever it is, and then they prescribe Ritalin or Concerta, thank you, pharmaceutical industry, to calm this child down so they can focus. And so it's more brain fog on them. And so it's amazing to me when I sit and I think about this stuff, about how messed up that is. Now, I'm not a calorie counter. I count carbohydrates because I don't think counting calories even matters. If you get the right kind of food in your body, then you're going to be fine. Those carbohydrates is what you need to be counting, because that's what's making people fat, and that's what's making people sick. And so the calorie count on this is 150 calories per serving. So 2 servings, 300 calories. Throw some milk into that, and you've got a mixture of poison. Fruit Loops. Everybody likes a Fruit Loop. And Fruit Loop says, and Captain Crunch says it right here, sweetened corn and oat cereal. Well, animals can't even digest corn that well. We certainly can't. Our bodies are not made to digest that stuff. So let's look at Kellogg's Fruit Loops. Natural fruit flavors, 9 vitamins and minerals, sweetened multi-grain cereal. Even gives you a poster on the back to play with. That's Kellogg's. Fruit Loops. Explore the Fruit Loops world. Poster on the back. Collect all 4. We have a calorie count of 150 calories per. Now, they've upped the serving size on this. We're going to get a little bit more out of a Fruit Loop. So here is 1 1/3 cup of Fruit Loops. Isn't that pretty? The color of the rainbow. And I guess that's interesting. You're sitting, you're eating your Fruit Loops. Well, by the time you put it in a denser form and grind it up, it ain't so pretty anymore. Matter of fact, it almost looks like paint pigment. Or maybe, it, it, it kind of resembles somebody's ashes after they've been cremated. I don't know. Maybe there's a connection. Well, that was morbid, wasn't it? But let's take a look. 34 grams equals 34 grams of carbohydrate and 1 cups of Fruit Loops equals 8.5 teaspoons of sugar at 150 calories per serving. Once again, let me ask you, do you or anybody you know just eat that much cereal with a bowl of milk or milk in a bowl? I didn't. I don't know anybody that did. So that is almost 9 teaspoons of sugar, less the milk you add to that. So, now a surprising effort out of all of this was ye old Frosted Flakes. This is what I ate growing up, whenever, breakfast wasn't available. And whenever I was grown, even up to a couple of years ago, I'd go through the grocery store and I'd buy me not just a little box. I bought the family size because I was planning on doing this meeting. Even after we bought this place 3 years ago, I would come in from the shop at lunch and I'd be hungry, and I had these big old Solo cups just to keep from dirtying up dishes. And I wasn't doing much for the environment, but I'd get me the big Solo cup, and I'd come in here and I'd grab the box of Frosted Flakes and I'd fill her up. And then I'd go to the fridge and I'd get the milk, and we always tried to buy the healthy stuff. We'd go get the 2% of sugar water, and I thought we was being healthy, but in all reality, I'd actually been healthier drinking the whole milk, because at least it had some fat in it that would help my brain and, help me, give me some energy. And all I was doing was getting temporary energy. So Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, the calorie count on 1 cup is 130 calories. That's before the milk. Now, Frosted Flakes says made with USA corn. Go, USA. 4 simple ingredients plus 8 vitamins and minerals, and there is no artificial colors or flavors. So 1 cup, and that's a serving size. We can see this is 1 cup of Frosted Flakes, sugar on every side, equals, look at this right here, it ground up less than any of them. I mean, it went to nothing. Look at that. That's not even an inch deep in this plastic cup. It went to nothing. No wonder when I came in for lunch, I would fill up a Solo cup, and I'd put the milk in it, it'd be running over the sides, and I would eat that, and I'd be sitting there, and I'd think, I think I could eat another one of those. And somebody said, well, you're just being gluttonous. No, that's what sugar does to you. It is an addiction that literally will take over your life and make you want more. 33 grams of carbohydrate equals just a little bit over 8 teaspoons of sugar. And so you figure that a solo cup, which was bigger than this, and I would fill it to the top. So in reality, I was probably getting about 1 3/4 to 2 servings per solo cup. And this is not a solo cup. It's kind of like it, but it's smaller. So I was probably getting 3 servings, maybe even closer to 4. And then you figure that that's 8 teaspoons of sugar. Well, let's take the lower value. Let's say there was 3 servings that I was eating at lunch, and then of course I was doing the milk twice because I'd eat the milk and then I'd do it all over again. So you can figure there's 2 cups of milk. That's that in itself is about 6 teaspoons of sugar, and then you do 3 of those at 8 teaspoons of sugar, basically 33 grams, which is just a little bit over 8. So 3 times 8 is what? Last time I did math, that was 32 teaspoons of sugar plus 6 teaspoons of milk conservatively. That is 39, almost 40 teaspoons of sugar for lunchtime. And then I'm wondering, I'm thinking I'm eating healthier because I'm not eating fat. I'm not eating all these pork chops and all this junk that I love to eat so much. And I'm thinking, man, I just can't lose this weight. I'm eating healthy cereal. I'm eating stuff that's great. That's what Tony taught us. Good old Tony Tiger. They're great. No, they're terrible. And here's the thing. You look at these boxes in the store and you're going, oh wow, look. Buy a box and support school sports. Well, yeah, but who's going to support you when they're dragging you down to the cardiologist and they're telling you that your arteries are clogged, and you find out that, they're saying, well, you got too much fat and too much sodium in your diet, but then you do the study and you find out that sugar actually causes constriction and plaque in your arteries. Well, no wonder your body can't handle the salt and the sodium. It's because your blood can't flow. So that leads us up to this next offering here by General Mills, which is Cheerios. Now, Cheerios have been around. I can't remember a day that there wasn't Cheerios. I actually found a box that somebody had plastered the wall with inside our old house, and they had actually gotten an old Cheerios box from way back in the day. And it was like black and white. It was old. So let's see. What's their offering say? Gluten-free? There's your plus. Good source of calcium, good source of fiber, with 11 vitamins and minerals. Cheerios made with 100% whole grain oats. Well, that sounds promising, don't it? I want to tell you something. Oats were not made for human beings. Oats is what we feed livestock. It's how we put weight on livestock. And it does that because it turns into what? Sugar in our body. So it sounds good. Can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart healthy diet. But what does it do for your insulin level and for your glucose level? And what does it do for your arteries and your blood veins that is in your body? That is, old folks used to get what's called hardening of their arteries in their neck. I'd hear it all the time talking. But do you realize that as time went on and folks got away from their butchering their own livestock and eating their own produced food from the farm out of the livestock, and they began to look more toward agriculture, and people started eating a lot more sugar and flour and starches, there began to be these health problems in their life. And there's a lot goes into that. And we don't have time to get into all that, but there's a lot of science in behind why that is the way it is. So let's take a look at this. I went a little longer than I planned on going today, but I'm glad to be able to do this. 140 calories in 1.5 cups. That's 1.5 cups of Cheerios. Now, this is the more liberal offering of a serving size. So here's what 1.5 cups of Cheerios looks like. Now, remember the little boxes of cereal that you could get in a variety pack? I always wanted my mama to buy those. She never would ever buy them for me. She said I wouldn't eat all of it and it'd be a waste because it would just be a mix of, you had a different variety every day. That serving size box, and I don't know if they still make them or not. I hadn't noticed. I'll have to look next time I go to the grocery store. But it would have been about that size. So, hey, if you're sitting in your truck and you needed a quick, crunchy meal for breakfast, then maybe you took that box and you got you a cup. I don't know, that box might have been waterproof. You might have been able to put your milk straight in it. I can't remember. But that's one serving size, 1.5 cups. That's the more liberal of it. Cheerios, we're looking at 140 calories and 29 grams of carbohydrate, which leads us to 7 teaspoons of sugar. So it is the lesser of the evil, but still, if you compare it to the Frosted Flakes, you're not getting much difference there. There's a little bit more, but then you got to remember that there's more here than there is here. And so that's the interesting things. Cheerios, heart healthy, lower your cholesterol. Listen, your brain needs cholesterol. And if you get your blood sugar levels straightened out, your triglycerides and all that kind of stuff equaled out and leveled, get your insulin down where it needs to be. Your body will take care of cholesterol because your body actually produces cholesterol. And if it wasn't for that fatty cholesterol, your brain is made of cholesterol. It needs that cholesterol. So, good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, whatever, the so-called bad cholesterol is actually good for you when it boils down to it. So here is the last. I was going to do 4, but I was in the grocery store. I was in Publix the other day, and I was walking along, and I've always loved going to the grocery store. It's a great place to observe people, and I love to watch people. It's amazing at their habits. I'm always looking to see what people's throwing in their buggy. I was even doing that before I was awakened to my own health reasonings. But I saw a lady standing in the cereal this week, and she was just kind of gazing around, and she was a bigger lady. And I thought, she's looking for something, healthy. And so I just kind of lingered reading labels. And I watched to see what she would get off the shelf. Well, she had went past all these sugar munchies. And she had went all the way to the end. Down there were these cereals that did not have these kind of labels that, jumped at you as an attraction and offered you all this stuff. But she was down there in something that looked more mature, something that looked like it might be more healthy for you than Frosted Flakes or this Fruity Bird or Captain Crunch giving you a salute, or even Heart Healthy Cheerios. She was down where the grains are. And she picked up that box, looked at it, put it in her buggy. I thought, well, that's interesting. So she moved on. When she moved on, I went down to where she was and I pulled a box off where she had made her selection. And I looked at it, and this offering is by post. And listen, I've been beside these cereal factories. I was working in Memphis, Tennessee, back in the 90s one day, and the wind shifted. We were working, and I got this smell. I mean, this scent floated across the city. We were kind of up high, and I guess the thermals was taking the scent up in the air. And I noticed some industry down there, and I got this smell, and I was like, wow, what is that? That smells good. And I've never been to Memphis. But my friend who was there at that place quite a bit in his work, he said, oh, that's not a restaurant you're smelling. That's the place down there where they make the cereal. And so they were cooking the cereal, and then I observed, and there was the smokestacks or whatever of where they were producing this cereal. And believe me, it smelled good because it whatever they were making there at that plant, man, it really smelled good. Okay, Post Great Grains, large size, 15.5 ounces. Now, this is the one that really just kind of shocked me when I went over and got it, because I wouldn't eat this stuff. I like nuts. I like corn. I love bananas. But I'm not one that's going to mix them all together. I'm a one at a time kind of fella, and always have really been, which has been actually to my benefit. This Banana Nut Crunch, natural flavored with other natural flavors, banana clusters, almonds and walnuts, and flakes, with real delicious banana clusters. Non-GMO project, verified nongmoproject.org. This one, I mean, just wow. You would think, because it says grains, that this is going to really be healthy for you. I mean, I don't see anything on the front right here that says anything about sugar. I mean, it's got a code on the back that you can clip. It says great grains made with a trio of delicious ingredients in every box. And man, you think you're getting something good here. But check this out. 1 cup of great grains. This is banana, almonds, walnuts, and flakes. 1 cup. You think you're about to get something here that's going to be good for you. I can eat this and I'll be full and I'll feel good. I've done something good for my diet plan. But then you read the ingredients, and listen, this is important. Always read these ingredients and learn how to interpret these ingredients. Because they can be misleading. Serving size is 1 cup. The calorie count. Now remember, I'm not a calorie person, but it is kind of amazing that 1 cup becomes 230 calories in 1 serving. I would chance burst say that most folks eat more than a cup. So here it is, processed, ground up, and 230 calories, 45. That's right. You heard me say it. Without the milk, before the milk, 45 grams of sugar. That, my friend, is this bottle of sugar plus one. And if you put 2 cups of great grains in your bowl along with milk, can you just imagine? You have took, I mean, if it's 11 teaspoons of sugar for this, and you do 2 cups, you have done 22 teaspoons of sugar plus your milk. Now, I'm going to do a video on juice and smoothies here before long. But can you just imagine the sugar intake that we put in our body because of this convenience? We have gotten something that is more convenient, something that is quicker, something that suffices for just a moment. But what is the cost of that? The cost of that is sickness, hypertension, anxiety, our children on, Ritalin, on Concerta, ADHD, brain fog, lack of focus, hyperactivity. It's no wonder, and since our body does feed on glucose, I mean, our body produces its own glucose as energy. You can eat a T-bone steak, and your body will take that and it will pull the nutrients and the minerals out of it, and your body will produce enough glucose for you to be able to operate. And guess what? It'll cull the rest of it. It'll go out the draw, and you won't get fat. But I'm going to tell you that if your diet consists of sugary things, and whether that be juice or overindulgent of fruit, or whatever, your body is going to store that extra sugar as a fat supply, that extra glucose, and you're going to gain weight. And finally, when you get so big, and believe me, I believe that I was pre-diabetic. I never got diagnosed that way, but I could definitely tell that my sugar levels were messed up. And there was this up and down, this rising up to the top and then this falling out to the bottom. So there was issues going on there. And so I found out that this junk was bad for me. And I started doing something about it. Thank the good Lord that He led me down this road to help me look at this stuff and begin to evaluate what I was putting in my body. I have lost a little over 60 pounds in a little over a year. Right at 60 from Christmas Eve of 24 to Christmas Eve of 25. Some of you can go on my Facebook page and look at the before and after pictures. I told my wife, I said I would have given anything if I would have took pictures of myself without my shirt on when I was so big, because even the t-shirt doesn't do my belly justice about how big I was. But I feel way better. My blood pressure, I take my blood pressure every morning. I document it and I keep it. I'm off of all my medications. I was on 6 when I came out of the hospital. I had a defibrillator strapped to me. I had a heart monitor on me. The doc said he'll be on medication the rest of his life, is what he told my wife. But I am on 0. I do take some supplements. I take some vitamins as far as that goes. Nutrient stuff, which I've been taking supplements for years. Good stuff. It's good for you. I do take a baby aspirin every morning. They say it's good for you. I'm trusted. They wanted to put me on blood thinners. They tried their best to get me to go on blood thinners. And I said, you know what I do for a living? I mean, I showed them my arms and the scars and everything that's on me. And I said, there's just There's no way. I would be bleeding all the time. And they're like, well, you need them. But, and I said something about, I took a baby out. That ain't no good. You need these blood thinners. But I never went and got on them. I did take a blood pressure medicine, which I guess you could say it's some sort of a blood thinner. But it brought my blood pressure way down. Once I got the weight off of me, and I had gained considerably amount of weight back after the hospital. I went good for a while, but I was headed back. I was headed back to the hospital. I can just tell you that. When I got that off of me, I instantly started having more energy. I could bend over, do something, pick up real fast, and I didn't feel like I was going to pass out. And so being able to get off those medications, taking my blood pressure every day, keeping track of that and my weight, and eliminating this sort of stuff. I mean, listen, I'm a teetotaler. I might eat a banana once a month, maybe once 2 months. And I've even questioned doing that. I'm definitely am a believer in how that we have ruined our children's health. We have wrecked our children's both mentally and physically health by feeding them this junk. And I'm guilty as well. We brought this stuff in our homes, and we thought we were doing something good. And then we wonder why our children are growing up the way they are, why that they're dealing with these emotional things, and we can blame that on a big variety of things. But if you can eliminate one thing, and a big thing, a big deal, if you can eliminate that, that'll go a long way. You may see a change. If you've got an obese child or you're obese, and you just eliminate sugar. And I told somebody last night, I said, I don't tell people right off the bat that I do the carnivore thing, because then you get this weird stare. Because and some people just get out of the way about it. But I'll have people that'll ask me. I say, so man, you lost weight? You sick? I say, no, I'm actually healthier than I've been. I feel better than I did whenever I was in my 30s. That's amazing. And I'm still just as strong. I think I may actually be stronger than I've ever been at any time in my life, according per se of me picking up parts and stuff, engines and stuff. But eliminated that stuff out of my life. A lot of things cleared up, did a lot better. And I saw the effects of that. And I think if we got these health issues in our life, if we can just eliminate the sugars, and that's what I've told people. I've said, well, I just cut sugar out of my life. And they look at me and I'll say, oh, yeah, that's how I did. I cut sugar out of my life. And they'll receive that. They say, oh, well, that's simple. You cut sugar out of your life. But then as I began to expound about the things that causes elevated glucose, elevated insulin, and I began to talk about some of the other foods, I can see their face change. Because you can say, well, hey, quit putting cream and sugar in your drink. It's no good for you. Quit going to Starbucks and Dunkin' and getting these frappuccinos and all this stuff. It's, loaded with all this stuff. And people, they'll come, I like my drink at Starbucks. You begin to point out things like this, and they say, yeah, I could probably do a little bit better, about what I'm eating. Then you turn around and you say, well, hey, starches are bad for you too. So this is what I did. I quit eating bread. I was 2 or 3 months into this thing, trying to figure it out. I learned how bad bread was for me. And listen, I'll do a thing on bread. It don't matter. It don't matter if it says whole grain, white bread, honey baked, whatever. Read that label. Man, I'm telling you, if it's bread, it's bad. I mean, and listen, people will go back and they'll say, well, what about bread in the Bible? What about grapes in the Bible? What about this stuff in the Bible? I'm doing a Bible diet. I'm doing this, you know, Daniel fast and all, all this kind of stuff like that. You got to remember that the food that old Daniel and them was eating back there in the Old Testament, it wasn't coming from the supermarket. It wasn't GMO'd. It wasn't sprayed with pesticides, and it wasn't, cultivated and messed with to be sweeter and bigger. Grapes in the Bible, they were actually pretty small, and they were actually pretty small, and there was a tartness, a bitterness about them that wasn't like a grape of the day. Buy a seedless grape, and it's sweet. It's candy. Same way, with bread. Bread's a lot different now, and so that's one thing to look at. That what you want is a good human diet, which is nutrient dense, which means it's got the good things and not any of the bad things. And so I'll tell people, I begin to try to educate, not that I know everything, because I don't. I'm really just starting in this journey. I'm learning a lot from other people, learning to listen to what my body's saying. 63 years old, and I'm finally getting an education. What about that? And but I do want to live a long time. My dad died at 71. He was in bad shape. He's a little bit taller than me. I would think Daddy was 3 inches taller than me. But he was 375 pounds when I was 16 years old. He couldn't, when I was a teenager, I used to have to put my daddy's shoes and socks on for him. And somebody might have said, well, he was just lazy. No, I can tell you right now that maybe I looked at it back then as him being lazy because I didn't understand. I was running around as a scrawny little kid, wearing a 27 or a 28 waist pair of Levi's. And I did not understand. I did not have the empathy or the knowledge to know that my dad literally could not bend over and put his own socks on and put his own shoes on. And I would notice that when he would come in from work, and he was so big, so enormous, he would come in and he would take his trousers off and he would be kicking his shoes off and he would kick his socks off, and there would just be these lines around his legs imprinted, and it didn't go away. I mean, it just stayed for hours of where he had so much inflammation in his body, and was big. And listen, my dad ate some good things. There is nobody that I know of that ever ate vegetables like my dad did. He ate vegetables. I mean, he would eat meat. He would eat vegetables, and you would think that he was eating really, really good, but he just, he took water pills. He had a shoebox full of medicine. And man, I determined early on in life, and I did not want that, but I got caught in this trap of eating this kind of junk and was headed there, and I couldn't figure it out. I just blamed it on genetics that, hey, my dad was big, the Weekses are big, they're just big people, and that's in my genes, and I'm going to get that way. Well, yeah, it was in my genes all right in the form of this. And so my dad passed away, 32 years ago. He did lose down some weight before he passed away, but his health killed him. It literally did. It snuffed out his life at a young 71 years old. That's only 8 years older than I am right now. And man, I don't want that. I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for your family. I want us to be healthy and live a long time. Old Uncle Everett Weeks lived off up here at LJ, probably about 15 minutes from here. And he was very truthful with me when I'd go up there. There wasn't no getting to it. I would go up to his house, wanting to hang out with him, and he would be so blunt and truthful with me. It was almost insulting. But he spoke the truth to me. He said, "Boy, you're getting fat like your daddy, and you're gonna die." And I knew them were words of wisdom that was going to happen. And so, looking at my family, looking at how the Lord has blessed me in my life, I thought, man, I got to do something about this. And so that is why we're on that journey now. My belief is that if you hear of Bruce Weeks passing away, it would be because I was up here on this mountain chasing some bear around, and he decided to turn on me or something. And it won't be from this junk, because I have eliminated. I'm 60 plus pounds lighter. Appreciate y'all today. Share our Facebook video. Some of y'all might be looking and saying, "Well, he ain't looking at us." Well, I've got two things going here today. I've got YouTube Live over here, which incidentally go to Bruce Weeks on YouTube. We've changed the name of the YouTube channel, Bruce Weeks for a Better Life. I just think that spiritually and physically that we can do some things through our ministry, through our studies, through the Jasper, Georgia prayer meeting, that will help some people. I want to be a healthier church this year. I want us to embrace this and be healthier and give God the glory for all of it. We're Facebook Live. Share this video. Reach down, hit that share button, comment on it. This YouTube channel that's going on right here, hit the bell for the notifications, subscribe to our channel. It'll let you know when we go live every week. And we're going to try to do a study every week on something here. And so subscribe to our YouTube, share our Facebook. You can like it or you can hate it. Let us know. You can comment in the comment sections. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know your goals, what your ideal weight is. Let us know what you've done, how you've changed your diet. Let us know if we can help you in any way. Listen, we'll pray for you. We'll support you. We'll help you. We'll try to share with you what has been done for us. And so we love you and appreciate you. We're going to get out of here. What started out as a video that I said I'll do 25 minutes has turned into nearly an hour. But I think we got some good information here. We got something that we can stand on, at least in one aspect, and say, hey, let's get it together. Let's feed ourselves something that is better, and let's glorify God. And let's just eliminate some things that are not necessary. Listen, if you can get your health better, you'll get a raise. Not only will you have more money, but you'll have more time. You'll have more freedom. You'll have more mobility. You'll be able to do a whole lot more things. That, my friend, is worth everything. We're going to get out of here. Love y'all.